Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is James from Cave Dweller Music. You're joined by me and my co-host Brendan, and today our guest is Josh Thieler. I hope that I pronounced that last name correctly, from Úzkost, the political black metal band from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. For anyone who doesn't know your music, know the project or anything like that, do you want to just tell people a little bit about what you do and what the band's all about?
Yeah, for sure. We started Úzkost as a band called Slaves BC back in 2010. And in 2020, we realized that that name was kind of a bummer for a group of white guys to have. So we changed that to Úzkost. I historically was the drummer and the vocalist, but in 2020, very, very grateful that we were able to finally find a permanent drummer. So I'm now just the vocalist, but I do all of our artwork, and if you interact with any of us, any of it on social media, that's all me.
Nice.
So yeah.
I have to say that the artwork is one of the things that really drew me to the band. That the cover art, especially for the song "Property," "Property and Profit."
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. Just absolutely awesome.
I think that's the first one I ever saw. And I was like, oh, wait, I have this. Like, I have this. This is odd. This is oddly familiar. And then, boom.
Oh, cool. That's thank you for saying that, because that artwork was a style that I had never tried before, and I just kind of got the image in my head like as soon as we started thinking about writing the song, and I was like, it would be cool if I could try to do exactly this. And it came out pretty close to what I was trying to do, but I was still worried that people would be like, yo man, what are you doing? This is terrible.
No, I think it's 100% like a conversation starter, regardless of what people's perspective is on the image. You're going to get people, looking further into the music from just seeing that image, which is great because it raises awareness for what the song is all about.
Yeah. So then for people that don't know, the artwork is kind of like a 60s pop art of a person wearing a police uniform with like a antique pig mask on their face and a silhouette of a gun being held to the back of their head. So that song for Property and Profit was it's not pro police.
No. And then for me, I mean, you were referred to us by Tom from Allfather, which he's a big fan of yours, but I actually had discovered you before that. I realized after the interview, the song that you did, "Arise, Assemble, Conjoin Your Flame," that was actually the first song of yours that I was introduced to.
Oh, cool. That's in my opinion, that's a good one to start off with for us.
That when did that come out again? That was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
Late
think that
last
was
year.
the end of November. Yeah.
Cool. I remember I saw you got featured on one of this some big metal site. I can't remember which one, but they did a feature on this track. It might have been Machine Music. I maybe remember that incorrectly.
I'm gonna guess it was No Clean Singing.
Oh yeah, that may have been what it was. Right.
They've been. I'm really surprised because I always looked at No Clean Singing as like one of the harshest music critics that we could get, but they've been really kind to us, especially with the new singles.
That's awesome. Great to see it. So the band obviously changed the name for those reasons that you mentioned, but what's sort of the driving ethos of Úzkost? Like what's the idea behind the band?
Yeah. So it's kind of evolved over the years, but most recently it was just I would say like myself and a few of the other guys that are now in the band were raised extremely conservatively, and it took us a while. Most of all, it took me a really long time to like put that aside and leave it behind. It honestly wasn't like I probably like 2014, 2015, I started to be like, hey, maybe some of this is a bummer. But like 2016 was like when I would say I became like fully radicalized, and I was just like, yo, like this stuff that I've believed and argued for my entire life and everything that I was taught is like actively harming large swaths of the population. And like just like having conversations with people like opened all that up for me. So I would say the band now is more, because like obviously music is for anybody and it should be enjoyed by anybody who wants to. And I'm super not a gatekeeper with metal at all. But it's kind of historically been, metal is mostly like straight white guys that are the large percentage of people who enjoy metal. So I started to just writing things to address that audience, to just, be like, hey, bands like Five Finger Death Punch or whoever else that are pro cop, and have thin blue line flags on their shirts and stuff, like that's bullshit, and like, a lot of the black metal bands or, death metal bands that are, talking about hating women or hating trans people or, the homosexual community, that's bullshit, and like, just fighting back against that.
We
Right.
outside
People
outside
are people, right?
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, our side takes a pretty strong stance on that stuff as well. We actually have a charity sampler, a dungeon synth charity sampler, with all proceeds going to transgender organization, coming out later this year.
Oh, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a different approach. I don't think anyone's done a trans rights dungeon synth sampler yet, so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
First for everything.
Well, hopefully in like 2 to 5 years, it'll be like, oh, hey, it's this month's trans dungeon synth.
Start the trend.
Pave that path and then start dragging people down it with you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we try to do a couple of samplers a year. Like we do a mental health one every May, which is normally 50 to 70 tracks. This year was the biggest one we've done. And then in January we did one for Doctors Without Borders that was grindcore and power violence based. Next one's going to be the trans one, and then the one after that is going to be an environmental conservation one, which is still being put together at this point.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know you mentioned that you do some charity work as well for an organization that you're part of.
Yeah, I started working with a group, and when I say group, it's kind of 3 or 4 of us, depending on the day. But it's called Community Care and Resistance in Pittsburgh. You can find us on Instagram at ccrip1312. But basically, we're just going out every week on Sundays, and we spend like 6-7 hours going to all the different unhoused camps that we can find, and just like hanging out and trying to build community with them, and then meeting any needs that they may have, whether that be legal or, trying to hook them up housing or jobs or whatever resources. And then the second part of the group is we meet on Tuesdays and table outside of our local jail. And we just greet anybody who's getting released, offer them, bus passes, food, cigarettes, whatever they need, and just like a kind word, just trying to build that community, reminding everybody that, we're all humans, right? And we should all be there for each other. I think those are 2 communities that have really been othered in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure a lot of other places. So we're trying to do everything we can to, build up that community, build bridges, remind everybody that they're human beings and that, as much as people don't like to be reminded of it, you could be one day from living on the street yourself or finding yourself in the jail, because I know people like to say that people in the jail deserve to be there, but
Do they?
do they? And a lot of them are just because they can't afford bail, to get out, or a lot of them have done nothing wrong. So yeah, so anybody who's interested, if you're in the Pittsburgh area, hit me up on whatever social media. You can come hang out with us, or you can donate through our Instagram. The Crip 1312 Instagram, I think, links to Crip's Venmo or whatever. So yeah,
That's awesome. We've talked about this with quite a few people. We actually had Brian Frunk from Thou on the show a little while back, and he made a really good point that he wishes bands would use their platform not necessarily to push political agendas, because that's great on one side, but you're never going to convert everyone. But what you should do more is push causes, things like what you're doing. Use a platform to get people to volunteer, to donate, to support causes that they can actually become actionably involved with. And I fully agree
tangible
with that.
things.
Yeah, you see a lot of people saying like, this is wrong, we should stand against this, which is great. You have to call stuff out, but doing nothing after that doesn't solve the problem.
Right. And it's important to have people that are, like you said, that are boosting awareness of different things, calling it out. It's sure it's important to vote, but if you want to do more than that and do something more directly, then I think that's why I really loved when you were saying the different samplers that you're doing, and the money that you're raising for different causes, because I'm of the opinion that if you have a platform of any kind, that you should be doing something with it, something meaningful with it, right?
I agree completely. I actually just a few weeks ago started a nonprofit record label myself. That's the sole purpose of which is to give a platform to underrepresented and marginalized artists.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. It's called Heritage Harmony Records, and it's exclusively working with bands outside of the United States and Western Europe and Central Europe, because I feel like those areas have a really unfair advantage in the global music market as opposed to non-English speaking artists. I know all artists struggle to some extent, but it's really those people outside of those regions are really disadvantaged trying to break into the English speaking market.
That's fantastic. I'm going through and I'm following you on all the social media things right now.
We've just started. I just started recently, so we've got a couple of artists signed. Trying to make it as diverse as possible. So we got some bands from South Africa, Bulgaria, Peru. I'm in talks with some people from Mexico. Where else? Kenya. So it's a fun project, and it's really great to be able to help those people where I can.
That's so cool. All right, I found your Twitter and your YouTube, and I followed you. Are you on Bandcamp?
Yeah, that's what the label's actually digital only. It's fully based on Bandcamp.
I found it.
It's hosted on the other things. We're on Instagram, Twitter, all the major platforms, Tumblr.
Yo, Tumblr. I always forget that we have a Tumblr, that I made us a Tumblr. Like,
I genuinely love Tumblr, even though it's not used nearly enough.
I always thought Tumblr was cool because it was
I
mean, that was a place that I would always go to like follow like visual artists, and it was a platform that you could look at large, high quality versions of the artwork. So
right, it wasn't compressed.
All right.
Brendan, I know you always have some great questions about local places. Did you want to talk about the local scene and food and that sort of thing?
Well, can you tell me about Primanti's sandwich?
Have you been?
I haven't.
Okay. So this is very offensive to a lot of people from Pittsburgh.
That's okay.
I do not like Primanti's. Primanti's whole idea is, so like the idea was, we were a steel mill town, right? So you had a bunch of workers that wouldn't have a long time for a lunch break. So they would just go to this place, and literally they would put the whole lunch in between two pieces of bread. So you go to Permanis and you get meat and eggs and cheese and sauerkraut and French fries between two pieces of bread, and it's a gigantic sandwich. I love that story. I love the idea of what's going on in those sandwiches, but Permanis, in my opinion, only taste good if it's 2:00 in the morning and you've been drinking for at least 12 hours. So there's a restaurant called Fatheads that is probably a block and a half from Permanis. And it's the same kind of thing. They put 5 different kinds of meat on a sandwich, and the sandwich is as big as your head, and it's fantastic. They cure all their own meat in-house and smoke it in-house and stuff, and the price point is the same. It's the same as Permanis. It tastes good at Fatheads, and it doesn't taste good at Permanis.
Nice. Well, what about the Beato's pepperoni roll? I've seen pepperoni rolls everywhere, but is that one?
Yeah, that's absolutely delicious. It's funny that you bring up pepperoni rolls. I was super craving one today. But that was something that my grandma used to make all the time, pepperoni rolls, and a super simple thing. And you would think there's other stuff that my grandma made where it ruined that food for me, and I never want to eat anybody else's version of it again. But pepperoni rolls are one of those things that I will eat anyone's pepperoni roll. It's gonna be good.
Hell yeah. And then I guess for my final sort of food question right now, a Pittsburgh salad. What are you guys doing with that? What?
So a Pittsburgh salad, that's something that you can get, most places, most restaurants in Pittsburgh.
It's kind of like a poutine, right?
Poutine? No, it's a salad. There's lettuce in there, the base is lettuce, but then you top the salad with steak and French fries. So you can go to Fatheads and enjoy that with some hard-boiled eggs and red onion, and I think rosemary, cherry pepper, tomato, mayo, or something like that. But it's we found a way to make salad the unhealthiest thing it could ever be.
Just need to deep fry it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'm on a diet. I had a salad. And yeah, Pittsburgh salad has literally a pound of steak on it.
3,000 calorie salad.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of the things that I love food. So any band that comes through, I love when they ask me about where to eat, or bars to go to, or places to get food. That's my favorite thing to get asked by anybody. My favorite thing is that how historically New Yorkers are supposed to be snobs and they think that only New York City has really good pizza.
Right. Well, the best pizza comes from New Haven, but we can talk about that later.
I would love to talk about that later. All these bands from New York City have come through, and some of them have been snobby and no, I'm not going to eat the pizza. Then they try the pizza and they're like, holy shit, this is the best pizza I've ever had. And I'm like, it's just the place down the street in Pittsburgh. We have so much good pizza, so many different styles of pizza, everywhere. It's fantastic.
I've never heard that before, so that's interesting to know.
Yeah, we got the Detroit style, the New York style. We have traditional Italian, different areas of Italy, specific types of pizza, whatever kind, we got it. It's fantastic. If you don't believe me, come tour through Pittsburgh and I'll take you out.
Let's do that. What about beer? Well, is there some good breweries or some like cool spots that aren't like in the mainstream?
Yeah. So all of my favorite bars are dive bars. Obviously, uh, I've spent way too much time, but met a lot of really good friends in a lot of them. So one of my favorites is Dee's Cafe. It's one of those places that, like, from the outside, you can't even tell that there's anything there. Um, it looks like a closed warehouse almost, but then you walk in and you feel like you're going back 40 years in time. And it's filthy, it's disgusting. But the jukebox is fantastic, and nobody messes with you. You can just go in there and drink and play darts. You can go drink for 10 hours and walk out with a $20 bill, and it's one of those kind of places.
Hell yeah.
But as far as like breweries that are really good in Pittsburgh, I would say 11th Hour is probably my favorite. They've really been knocking it out of the park, especially with IPAs, probably like the last 5 years. Like every single one that they put out is fantastic. And then there's one called Hitchhiker that is also really good. I think they're really good at IPAs, and then a lot of people like their sours, I think, which I'm not a big sours guy, but
all right. Yeah, the brewery I work for does a bunch of sours. People go nuts over them.
They do. I really feel like my wife doesn't like beer, but I feel like she drinks apple cider vinegar every single day, and she drinks those kombucha drinks and stuff. So
yeah.
I'm like, I bet you're gonna like a sour if I just can find the right one to give her.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. We do like, oh man, some pretty neat ones like passion fruit and a dragon fruit one. We do, strawberry and a blueberry one and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's neat. Sours are pretty cool, man. Some of them can be real intense though, depending on how they're made.
Yeah. I think the closest I ever got to liking one was like a strawberry rhubarb sour.
Ooh, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be good.
It was almost there for me. I was like, this half tastes amazing and half is disgusting. But yeah, maybe we've never been up there, so I'll just make my wife go up to New Haven with me and we'll try your sours.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, you guys aren't too far from Connecticut.
Actually, I have no idea. The farthest I've ever gone, I've gone to Canada. I went to Toronto to see Aronzi Pazuzu.
Nice.
Cool. How was that?
Unbelievable. Just absolutely incredible. It was probably, I'm not exaggerating when I say I've been to thousands of shows in my life, and that was like probably one of 10 that gave me goosebumps when I saw them. So yeah, that, or I think the other closest that we've gotten like north is like we've headlined in Brooklyn a couple times.
Yeah, we're about maybe hour and a half, 2 hours from Brooklyn.
Oh, all right. That's like so that'll be like 9-hour drive for me. That's worth it for some beers.
Yeah.
Google mapping it right now.
Yeah, we're so the brewery technically is in South Windsor, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, some fun stuff.
All right. So do you have a venue up there that we can play at when I drive up there?
There's a few spots around for sure. We're actually going to be getting a guy on the show that does booking and all that kind of stuff coming up. I'll link you guys up.
Okay.
Yeah. Deadlock Productions.
Oh, this is like, it says it's only an 8-hour drive, probably because we're skipping Brooklyn, or like not driving into New York City.
Yeah,
But
it probably puts you.
It literally takes out 8 hours to get to Brooklyn. So
Wow.
you're like, I don't know, however many miles farther, but it's the same amount of time.
That's wild. That's yeah, you probably have to go through. Do you go through Jersey?
To get to Brooklyn, yeah.
Yeah. So they probably have you not go through Jersey. I feel like maybe. I don't know. It depends, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know. That fucking place is a armpit, I tell you.
Not to talk shit on a whole state, but I will say the last time that we drove through there, like, you're not driving in New Jersey for long, the way that we went, and we were, it was probably only like in New Jersey for like 15 miles, and I rolled down the window and it just smelled like garbage. And I was just like, wow, this state sucks, but it was because like all we saw were there was garbage dumps and prisons. And I was like,
it's
I don't want to.
And gas production kind of shit.
I was like, I don't want to talk shit on the whole state, but like, that was my whole experience, was just prison. And
if you could just fist pump the smell out of the sky, that'd be great.
I'm sure New Jersey is lovely, and there's a lot of cool places there. Somebody that's
there is. Hey, my grandmama lives there. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I'll say somebody that's mad at me in the comments, just tell me where to go in New Jersey, and I'll go.
Correct us.
Yeah.
Educate us.
Go on the podcast and tell them.
Yeah.
We're getting all these podcast hosting requests from all these New Jersey bands suddenly. It's so weird.
And then Úzkost is just getting a bunch of inbox messages on Twitter and Facebook of people wanting to fight us from New Jersey.
Speaking of New Jersey, I've just been watching a show. Have you heard of Boardwalk Empire?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just about to finish that. Absolutely excellent series. Like
I haven't seen it, and I know all about it.
I don't know. It's like, if you like The Sopranos, then watch it. It's like, I find it, I might get a lot of flack for this, but I find it better than The Sopranos, but similar sort of vein, like very much mobster type show. But I like it as well because it has a lot of historical figures in it throughout the Prohibition era, which is really cool. But on the topic of cinema and TV, I know that your band is pretty big fans of the movie The Room. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your favorite film?
Yes. So it is canon in this band's lore that one of the things that brought us together as a band was the movie The Room, Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It is lauded, rightly so, as one of the worst movies of all time, but it's also absolutely fantastic. We literally watched it like 100 times in the first 2 years that we discovered it, because we were making every single person that we knew watch it like at least once. That movie is terrible, but I love it so much, and we can literally it's entered and has been for over 10 years. Our normal dialogue has changed. Like, we just it's just room quotes are permanently embedded in our regular daily conversation now.
That's me with the Simpsons. Like, I've been watching it since I was a child, and there's like probably an inappropriate amount of situations where I'll just quote a Simpsons quote in response to something happening with something someone says.
That's amazing.
It's been going for like how many seasons? Like 32 seasons or something. They have something for everything. They've covered every situation.
Yeah. I think I'm only that way with like The Room or Lord of the Rings, like
Uh-huh.
the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then the 90s X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
I want to cover that so bad. Oh, probably What About Bob too. That's another one I can like. I
That I
know.
I don't know that one.
That's like a older Bill Murray movie that's just it's unhinged.
Okay.
Which one?
What About Bob?
Yeah, that's from. They did. What was that? Was it Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Keene, New Hampshire. So I was like, and loved Bill Murray. That movie is amazing.
I think that was again, raised super conservative. That was the first PG movie that I was ever allowed to watch. And so like now it's one of my favorite movies ever.
What about Bob?
Son of a bitch and Bob.
It's all just like, man, what's up?
Yeah.
Just want to hang out. That movie was so good.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I've never even heard of it until now.
Oh man, that's a classic from like my childhood.
So what I'm hearing is that we're turning this podcast interview into just the three of us like watching What About Bob together.
Yeah.
We'll do a live stream for that actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. He's taking baby steps.
Baby steps to the elevator.
Baby steps.
The other one that I because I'm obviously not from the US, but I grew up on like British TV and British cinema. And for me, I'm not sure if you've heard of Peep Show.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other one that I can just quote that whole show basically.
So I wasn't going to assume where you're from, but since you've told me, and we're talking about movies, I want to ask you a question that I've never gotten to ask.
Okay.
Someone from your country. We like to take your movies. I mean, America likes to take everything from everywhere and steal it for ourselves. But like we did it to The Office, and then we did it to. There's a specific movie that I really loved called Death at a Funeral. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah.
I love the original movie.
Yeah. How did you feel about that being remade? And it was like a year later.
The remake had Ben Stiller in it, right?
No.
Oh,
no, I thought it was an all black cast, wasn't it?
You're right. And it was a midget.
It was.
No, that's the original one.
Oh, okay.
That was the original one that had Peter Dinklage.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So I don't know how something to remake.
So just to clarify,
Peter Dinklage was in the American one.
Oh, he's in the remake. That's right. I'm getting them confused because he is English, but he was in the.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm thinking of. It had was it the one with like Luke Wilson and Chris Rock, Tracy Morgan, and then Peter Dinklage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tracy Morgan's funny.
Yeah, and the original one. Who was the? Okay, wait, was he in the? Peter Dinklage was in the original as well. I just checked. He was in both.
Oh,
yeah,
he was the only actor in both. Okay. So just to clarify, I'm not actually English. I just sound like I am because I've lived in so many Commonwealth countries. I'm originally South African. Yeah, and then grew up in New Zealand and then Australia. But all three of those countries are very big on British television and cinema. So yeah, I grew up watching that. But I'll tell you the same answer because America's remade a bunch of Australian shows and movies as well. So I feel the same way about it. But I think that the humor doesn't translate. I don't think it translates because American humor is very different to British style humor, and Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa have much more of a British sense of humor, a lot more sarcasm, dry wit, a lot less slapstick and in your face stuff, and a lot more self-deprecating. as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't translate. And then whenever the Americans try to do like a parody or a spin-off of a British one, it always gets like the jokes. I don't need to insult anyone in the US in any way, but the jokes are so much more obvious.
Yeah.
Like the delivery is always like really over the top, or like.
But I'm pissed.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's just a different approach to humor.
We need that. We need that. We're not
sophisticated enough in our humor.
I was gonna say, now I'm gonna insult my entire country, so I won't.
No,
but
there's a lot of great American comedy. I'll say that. I'm not shitting on American comedy. There's some amazing American comedy, obviously. Just different styles and they don't translate well. I'll leave it at that.
I just loved how, like you said, like with the dry humor in the original Death at a Funeral, it's absurd. It's amazing. I love that movie so much.
And the British do awkwardness like better than anyone.
Right.
Like if you watch the British Office versus the American Office, it's like 10 times more uncomfortable. Like Ricky Gervais is so uncomfortable in that show.
What was it? There was another show about the crazy family. Why can't I think of the name of it?
That got remade?
Yeah.
I know that the US tried to make an American version of Kath and Kim, which was the Australian. It's like an Australian show that was like iconically Australian. Like the whole point of the show was how aggressively Australian it was that made it funny, and then they did a US version with like, I guess like we have a term in Australia that doesn't really translate to America called bogged, which is like. In the US, you would say like white trash, but white trash is like negative connotations that people don't like self-identifying as, I guess. Whereas in Australia,
I don't want to be white trash, bro.
In Australia, a lot of people who are in that category are very proud to identify as that. So it's like it's a very different mind. Yeah, it does. I don't know if there's direct like equivalent to that term.
I think here, like a lot of other things, I was born and raised white trash. I would self-identify as white trash and know a lot of people who have done it proudly.
Okay.
So if someone else called you white trash, then it's not cool.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And like, does white trash in the US like? Would you say like white trash in the US translates like you have to be in a city or out of a city? It doesn't matter where you live. Like, does it translate to redneck or white trash depending on where you're located type thing? Or
I think it's mostly just like redneck.
Redneck.
Okay.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
I think like white trash is what rednecks call white trash.
I'm very curious how this episode's going to go down.
Me too.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Well, the show I was thinking of was called Shameless.
Oh yeah, the American version of that is excellent though, because it's got what's his name? Who's the dad in that? William H. Is it Macy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
he's
William H.
Frank.
Macy.
He is fantastic.
He's fucking hilarious. He's so good.
That show. No, that is
and
an
then
example.
I can't remember the actor's name, but Lip. He's in another show called The Bear.
He's in a few things. And then what's her name?
He's a really good actor, man.
His oldest daughter was in Phantom of the Opera as well, that actress. With
What?
Gerard Butler. Yeah, she was with Gerard Butler in the Phantom of the Opera movie.
Whoa. So like I saw that, I guess, when it first came out, and I didn't watch Shameless probably until 2 years ago. So I completely didn't make that connection.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. I watched the Phantom of the Opera when it first came out, like you did. Then I watched Shameless. Then I rewatched Phantom of the Opera with my wife, and I was like, "Oh shit, it's what's her name from Shameless?" And she's actually got a really good voice.
Huh. That was a cool show.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
That had a 10-year run, man.
That, like, I'm not saying I drank anywhere near his level, but that season where he got like liver failure and stuff.
Oh God,
that made me
like the whole episode.
Yeah, that made me like maybe I shouldn't have another beer tonight. Like,
Right?
Yeah.
Water sounds pretty nice right now.
yeah, need to lay off for a week or two.
As
So
I'm
We went in the sweat lodge.
right, just to get back on music for a second, because we have gone pretty far off the rails this episode. Do you want to tell us a little bit about a band you were in called Unfurl? I know that you're no longer with them, but I know you did play with them for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. So there's a band called Unfurl from Pittsburgh. I originally heard them. They put out an album called The Waking Void, which was really sweet. And I think Sludge Lord posted about it, which was hilarious to me that it's happened more than once that Sludge Lord has posted about a Pittsburgh band that I'd never heard of that was really good. And then like the studio engineer that we go to, Matt at Very Tight Recordings, also like brought that album to me. So I was a big fan, and in the pandemic, like everything shut down. I think I was in 17 different projects until March of 2020, and then like everything just kind of died, and I either projects like quit altogether or I quit them. But so Unfurl was looking for a drummer, and I was like, hey, your record was really good. I'd love to try out. And apparently they were fans of our band, so it just kind of like worked immediately. So
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
we just like my band Úzkost wasn't even getting together or practicing or writing or anything. So like I just went, a couple times a week and wrote an album with them, which just came out, called Ascension. It was self-released. Again, I've drummed for a lot of projects, mostly black metal and death metal. And this Unfurl record was the most challenging drumming that I've ever done. It was just like the guitar player in that band, Unfurl, his name is Dale, and he's just unbelievable. I don't understand how he writes the way that he does. He'll literally, like while I'm setting up my drums, he would just sit and riff on the spot for like 12 minutes straight, and it would be like this complete epic 12-minute song that he just shit out of nowhere, and like he wouldn't record any of it, and he wouldn't remember it because he's just basically noodling. But usually like when people are noodling, it's just nonsense, but like he was on the spot creating these incredible riffs that were spanning, from grindcore to black metal to death metal to doom and sludge and hardcore and like math metal and like all this crazy, and then like post-hardcore, and I don't understand how his brain works with music, but he's just an incredible songwriter. So I was very happy to get to contribute drums to that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's actually a band I haven't checked out. I just saw when I was preparing for this that you'd been a member, so I'm definitely gonna have to give them a listen. I saw they released an album 2023, like this month.
Yeah, that was literally like at the beginning of the month.
Wow. Okay. And then you were also in a band called Swarming as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Swarming. I think that counts less. Like Unfurl, I played a couple shows with. Swarming was just a studio project amongst friends.
Okay.
So that was me, and then Brandon, who used to play guitar in Úzkost. And Brandon was starting his own studio. I think he might still have a studio. I'm not sure. And then our friend Nate, who I'm not supposed to say what band he's from, even though if you go to Metal Archives, it literally links you to the other band that he's in. And that was just like a fun project that we just like we just sat down, wrote it in a couple hours, and then recorded it in a couple hours, like the same day.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was like, we had no idea what we were going to try to write before we got there. It was just like, let's see what happens. And that Swarming record is what happened.
That's awesome. And I will say that, without saying the name of the band, that I saw your friend Nate's main band this year live.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, great show. The lineup
Nice.
was actually ridiculously stacked, especially for the price of the concert.
Nice.
Oh,
And I would say who played with them, but they'll give away what the band is. But great lineup, legendary headliner.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And then I don't know if you want to talk about this one as well, but I saw you used to be in as a two-piece called Twilight Fauna.
Oh, yeah. So that was Twilight Fauna existed before me, and it was a solo project, like a solo Appalachian folk black metal project, from a guy named Paul Ravenwood.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, we started talking on the internet, like over Twitter, early on in me starting to become radicalized, as I referenced earlier.
Sure.
And like, I learned a lot from him and his wife about like feminism and trans rights and stuff like that. And recorded a bunch of records with him. We were actually in another band together called Arette, with members of other like black metal bands and stuff too. But then I forget, time means nothing to me at this point, but I think it was 2020 that it came out that Paul was actually apparently an abuser.
Oh, wow.
So there was like an anonymous account on Twitter that came out and said that he had done some horrible things. And I don't know what those things were. I still get messages to this day, like 3 years later, asking me what happened. I don't know. All I know is that he did something, and that something made him want to quit music forever and quit social media forever. So I support all survivors, and I took that seriously. I quit Twilight Fauna the day that I found out, and then me and the other members of Arette broke up Arette that same day as well.
Wow, good for you. That's awesome to see that level of support.
Yeah.
It's
So-
shocking how many people make excuses for people.
Yeah,
Right.
and I mentioned that, well, not just because you asked, but like people still list Twilight Fauna on the the big ally playlists on, or like anti-fascist playlists on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, but just to say like, hey, you appreciate it, but all that money goes directly to him and you don't want to support him. So
Right, definitely. Do you remember that absolutely crazy stuff that came out about the dude from Neurosis?
yeah.
Yeah, man.
That was like, what the, that was really
Manipulator.
shocking stuff, and it got so public as well.
And then like it felt like he was trying to manipulate the public
story.
response to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. He was just getting
Oh, that's a narcissism. That's what they do, right?
Yeah, but it's like it was obviously coming out anyway, and he just wanted to control the narrative and shape how the story came out and paint himself as like repentant instead of just manipulative.
I think he sort of had a respect to his family to try and at least shield them from like that kind of stuff. Like it's their business, but it's none of like the public's business for like his wife and his kids and stuff. You know what I mean? That's not fair to them.
Yeah.
It was coming out anyway, is basically what my understanding. And that's why he got ahead of it. It wasn't because he actually wanted to own up to it. It's that.
Well, right. No, I agree.
It's crazy how prevalent all of this is, right? Like,
right.
I don't know if it's like social media or if it's Me Too or, you know, like people feeling more confident in standing up to stuff like this, or
right.
you know, the ease of access of, or like getting it out to people, or it just seems like every week there's some band that like I was a fan of, that I have a shirt of, that I have 3 records on my record shelf from.
Yeah.
That I'm like, they're either a Nazi or a rapist, or they start saying some crazy shit about trans people on the internet, and then I'm like, well, fuck them.
or they're on QAnon and like drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Like remember
people.
Remember what happened with what's his name from Ice Earth? I was like, it was like at the Capitol.
He didn't he was gonna get prison time, I think, but didn't he like snitched? He snitched and got out?
Yeah. He did. He like testified against other people or something and got out.
That is so hilarious to me. Like
it is. The memes that came out of that were just phenomenal as well.
That's one thing about the world going to shit in so many different ways, that at least we have a lot of good content.
yeah, a lot of memes. It's like 2020 was like one of the bleakest years in modern history, but the memes were so spicy.
But the memes.
We've gone a little bit over time, but that's totally fine. Just to wrap up, before I ask my last few questions, I know you said you had some singles coming up. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what's coming?
Oh yeah, sure. So we have been recording and releasing a single every 2 months, releasing them. We had plans to do 6 of these. 4 of them have been released already. And then 2 weeks ago, we recorded our last 2 singles. And so you should expect those in the next couple months. We just got done filming a music video for the first one. So I don't have a hard release date yet, because our studio engineer is going to get married. And so he's being super selfish and focusing on his fiance and his wedding instead of mixing our song.
Wow.
In case I was using dry humor there.
There you go.
in case that doesn't carry over. I love him. He's great.
The sarcasm was
I'll insert a laugh track after that.
So that'll be coming soon. And then here's a spoiler or Easter egg or something for anybody who cares enough. The second of these singles, which will be single number 6, I'm not going to tell you who. I'm not going to tell you what movie. But we do have a guest vocalist featured very prominently on that song. And it is a famous actor or actress. And when I say famous, I mean along the lines of The Room, but not The Room.
Okay. Awesome.
So if you Google the worst 3 movies of all time, I bet you will see the movie that this person is from featured prominently alongside The Room pretty consistently. So can't say who it is, but it'll be in a couple months, and I'm really stoked about it. So.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. How did that come about?
I drank too much, and I was sad at the bar, and I sent a tweet, and I just said it would be really cool to get guest vocals from, and I said I tagged Tommy Wiseau from The Room. I tagged John Bernthal from the Punisher Netflix series.
I love that dude.
Yeah, but he screams so much in that show, and it sounds so tough.
It does.
I thought he would be a good guest vocalist. And then a third person who accepted within 60 seconds of me sending that drunk tweet.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then after that, we're already starting right now. We're working on our next full length. We just got to go label shopping. So, if anybody that's listening has friends at any fun record labels that feel like paying for vinyl in today's day and age, tell them to hit us up.
I might know someone that I can talk to you about afterwards.
Oh, hey.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll send the name over afterwards.
Right.
Also, just to on the Punisher note, that scene, I think it might be season 2, where he has the sledgehammer and it plays the Tom Waits Hell Broke Loose. That is one of my favorite TV scenes ever.
I know, it's so good.
It was just perfect. That was like such a perfect use of that song too. Like it just fits so well.
Hell yeah.
Cool. I have 2 questions for you then. One is super simple, one's going to be a little bit trickier and put you on the spot.
Okay.
We'll go with the tricky one first. Is if you were stranded on a desert island and you had a solar powered Discman and 3 CDs to keep you company until you got rescued, what would they be?
Holy shit. Oh my god. Dream Theater, Scenes from a Memory Part 2.
Okay.
Oh my god. This is horrible. Lord Mantis, Perverter.
Yes.
All right. Hell yeah.
Love Lord Mantis.
Oh my god. Nothing that I'm going to be so mad at anything that I say for the third one. I'm also trying to remember who's canceled for valid reasons.
Right.
Gosh darn it. Okay, I'll just say, I will say whatever the most recent Taylor Swift album will be at the time that I get stranded.
Okay. You're a fan?
Yeah, I'm yes.
My wife is
Tay-Tay.
My wife's a massive fan, so I've heard every song she's ever made like 50 times.
It's not fun to have forced upon you, but if it's something that you want to listen to, it's great.
I've become pretty numb to it at this point. It's fine. No, I'm kidding. You do build up immunity. Last question is, if someone wants to support the band, buy your music, buy merchandise, follow you on socials, what are the best places to do all of those things?
So if you just Google our band, you should come up with whatever. But if you go to Linktree /Úzkost, that'll take you to everything. You can get our Spotify, our Bandcamp, Twitter, Instagram. I don't think I have Tumblr on there. But yeah, you can find us everywhere if you just search Úzkost.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll definitely keep an eye out for those upcoming singles and for what you have coming. Love your work, and we'd love to have you back on again sometime.
All right. Thank you so much. Anytime. And I'm looking forward to those cool comps that you got that are coming out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And for anyone listening at home, thank you so much for tuning in, and come back next week. We'll have another guest for you.